There was a group of sadistic assassins which had a special and brutal method to kill their targets. When they killed their victims, they would peel the tattooed skin off their victims as proof of a contract fulfilled. The group consisted of a former forensic pathologist, a cruel and brutal MMA champion, a hot-headed gunman, and a mute teenage boy who was also a master of medicine. Their group was called Smoking. One evening, several men visited a mysterious room that was located on the second floor of a building. They came there to meet a middle-aged man called Sabe. There was a weird transparent jar in that room. That transparent jar contained a tattooed skin of a human. One of those men was called Kobayashi. He was the one who hired Sabe and his group as his hitmen. The skin inside of that jar was the skin of the person whom he wanted Sabe and his group to kill. When Kobayashi asked him about that skin, Sabe said that it was the skin of his target. Sabe showed that skin to Kobayashi as the proof that he had done his job. Kobayashi laughed when he heard Sabe's answer. He was satisfied with his job. Then, he told his subordinates to give a sum of money to Sabe as the payment for using his service. Then, he told Sabe to leave that place soon. Sabe refused to accept that money. The amount of that money was not the same as the amount of the money that Kobayashi promised him to pay. He refused to accept that money and leave that place until Kobayashi gave him the money he had promised. Kobayashi screamed after he heard that. All of his subordinates in that room suddenly pointed their guns at Sabe. But Sabe wasn't afraid of them. He kept smoking his cigar and sitting quietly on his couch. Apparently, he wasn't alone there. He and his group had expected that this was going to happen. So, they had prepared themselves. Goro, the cruel and brutal MMA champion, suddenly came to that room and beat up Kobayashi's subordinates. Not long after that, Hacho the gunman also came to that place. He broke the window pane and entered that room through the window. He helped Goro to kill all of Kobayashi's subordinates. Then, Hifuman, the master of medicine, did his job to make Kobayashi passed out by using the medicine that he had made. After a while, Kobayashi finally woke up from his faint. He found himself was being tied in a container. He saw Sabe and his group there. Then, Hifuman came to that place. He brought a mysterious object that was covered with maroon cloth. Apparently, it was a transparent jar that contained a tattooed skin of Kobayashi. Kobayashi was shocked when he saw that. He realized that his back skin had been peeled off by Sabe and his group. Then, Sabe told him that he and his group weren't only taking the tattooed skin off their victims, but they were also taking their mask off. Once their skin and mask were removed, the true rotten and evil selves of their victims would be revealed to the world. Turned out, Sabe and his group lived in a homeless shelter in Japan. Every day, they were searching for and collecting discarded items in that area. They pretended to be scavengers to hide their true identity as a group of brutal hitmen. Each of them had different backstories. Hifuman was a mute teenage boy who was unable to speak because of the trauma that he experienced when he was a child. He knew a lot of drugs and medicine. Hacho and Goro's backstories would be revealed later. They had a pretty weird friendship. There was no single day that they didn't get into a fight. Meanwhile, Sabe was a former doctor who found and gathered all of them together. He was the leader of the group. Hifuman called him Uncle Sabe. That morning, Uncle Sabe suddenly came to their tent. He asked Hifuman to go camping in the mountains with him. Hifuman was surprised with that sudden request. The snowy area near the mountains was the favorite spot for people to go camping. One of the visitors who went camping there was this beautiful woman. She came out of her tent and tried to make a cup of coffee. But unluckily, she ran out of the gas. So, she visited someone's house and knocked on the door. A man opened the door and asked what could he help. He was called Sarukawa. That woman said that she needed gas for her stove. Sarukawa told her to come inside of the house. Before he closed the door, he made sure that nobody saw that woman there. In the evening, while Sarukawa was having a dinner alone, he suddenly heard someone knocked on his door. He left his dinner immediately to clean himself. Apparently, he was a cold-blooded killer. He murdered the woman who came to his house that morning and left her body in his bathroom. After Sarukawa got rid of his apron and cleaned himself, he opened the door. He saw Uncle Sabe and Hifuman there. Uncle Sabe told him that he and Hifuman were a father and a son who went camping in that area. He came to Sarukawa's house to borrow a first aid kit because Hifuman's ankle got injured. Sarukawa told them to come inside of his house. He was being friendly with Uncle Sabe and Hifuman. He talked to Hifuman, but Hifuman didn't respond to him. Uncle Sabe apologized to him because of that. He told him that Hifuman was unable to speak. After Uncle Sabe finished bandaging Hifuman's ankle, he thanked Sarukawa and tried to leave that place. But Sarukawa stopped him right away. He invited Uncle Sabe and Hifuman to have dinner with him. Uncle Sabe smiled and accepted his offer. Apparently, Uncle Sabe and his group had targeted Sarukawa. They had chosen Sarukawa as their next target. 3 years ago, Sarukawa killed and raped Uncle Sabe's boss. After he committed those heinous crimes, he ran away and disappeared without a trace. Uncle Sabe and his group were looking for him, but they couldn't find him anywhere. But a few days ago, they finally received information about Sarukawa. They heard that Sarukawa was hiding out deep in the mountains. But when Uncle Sabe saw his old picture, he doubted that it was Sarukawa because his face was different. Hacho said that Sarukawa might have had plastic surgery to change his face. Sabe thought that it was possible that the man in that picture was Sarukawa, but they needed to make sure about it first. They could find the answer by checking if the tattoo on that man's back was identical to Sarukawa's tattoo. While Uncle Sabe and Hifuman were in Sarukawa's house, Hacho and Goro were waiting for them in the van that they parked nearby. Hacho began to get impatient. He thought that it was useless for them to wait like that. But he couldn't do anything because they needed to wait for Uncle Sabe's instruction first. After that, Hacho and Goro got into a fight like usual. At Sarukawa's house, Sarukawa, Uncle Sabe, and Hifuman were having dinner. Sarukawa told them about some tourist attractions that Uncle Sabe and Hifuman could visit in that area. Uncle Sabe offered a bottle of alcohol to him. It seemed that he had put something into that bottle. Then, Uncle Sabe said that he would go to his van to get another bottle of alcohol. While he was gone, Sarukawa began to harass Hifuman. He knew that Hifuman was unable to speak, so it was going to be easy for him to prey on him. He planned to kill Hifuman first. After that, he was going to kill Uncle Sabe. Hifuman was trying to escape from him. He went to a room to hide from him. In that room, he saw many items that belonged to Sarukawa's victims. Sarukawa finally found out that Hifuman was hiding in that room. He broke the glass of the door and tried to enter that room. Hifuman was frightened by that. He tried to scream, but his voice didn't come out. Sarukawa managed to open the door and walk toward him. But suddenly, Uncle Sabe arrived in that room. He called Sarukawa's full name out loud. He now believed that Sarukawa was the former yakuza member that he and his group were looking for because of his tattoo. Sarukawa was surprised when he heard that. He wondered how Uncle Sabe could know him. Uncle Sabe told Sarukawa that he and his group were paid by someone to hunt and kill him. After Sarukawa heard that, he walked toward Uncle Sabe and tried to attack him. But before he managed to do that, he suddenly fell. He couldn't move his legs. Uncle Sabe told him that he was being poisoned by a nerve block. Because of that, Sarukawa couldn't move his body. Sarukawa tried to run away from that place. But it was difficult for him to control his body. So, in order to get rid of the effect of the anesthesia, he cut his chest with a butcher knife. The effect of the anesthesia finally wore off. He managed to move his body and attacked Uncle Sabe with the butcher knife. While Uncle Sabe was being violently attacked by Sarukawa, he told Hifuman to run away from that place. But Hifuman got paralyzed because he was too frightened and traumatized. The horrible incident in front of him reminded him of the time when his mother was being abused by a man. When Sarukawa was about to kill Uncle Sabe with his butcher knife, Hacho and Goro suddenly came to that place. They broke the door by using a chainsaw. But instead of attacking Sarukawa immediately, Hacho and Goro got into an argument. Before they came to Sarukawa's house, Hacho bet that Uncle Sabe's plan didn't work. If he was right, then Goro had to give him a pack of cigarettes. When they arrived there, they argued about whether or not Uncle Sabe's plan worked. Hacho believed that Uncle Sabe had failed. So, he asked Goro to give him a pack of cigarettes. Sarukawa was mad when he saw Hacho and Goro arguing with each other. He tried to attack them, but Goro managed to attack him first. After that, Uncle Sabe and his group took him to the container. They put him on the table and prepared him for the surgery that they were going to perform on him. Like usual, before Uncle Sabe and his group killed their target, they would peel their skin off first. After that, they would show that skin to the person who hired them as the proof that they had killed their target. Sarukawa was angry when he knew that he was going to be skinned. Uncle Sabe said that they needed to do this because Sarukawa had killed his boss's wife and many people who went camping in the mountains. Because of those heinous crimes that he had committed, Uncle Sabe was going to peel his skin off without anesthetizing him first. Then, Uncle Sabe began to cut and remove Sarukawa's skin. Sarukawa screamed in pain when he did that. Hacho found pleasure in watching that. Goro was also watching with him. They couldn't tell who was more crazy and violent between Sarukawa and Uncle Sabe. Meanwhile, Hifumin was waiting for them in another room. He was still traumatized by the horrible incident that he saw earlier. Because of that incident, he couldn't stop thinking about his past. When he was a child, when a stranger abused his mother told him to hide inside of a cupboard. While hiding inside of that cupboard, Hifumin saw that man beating up and stabbing his mother for several times with a knife until his mother died. Until this day, Hifumin still often had a nightmare because of that traumatic incident. A few days later, Uncle Sabe and Hifumin visited a strawberry garden. In that strawberry garden, visitors were allowed to pick the strawberries and bring those strawberries home. The owner of that strawberry garden was a bald man called Inukai Ryoji. Ryoji complained because he had been getting less visitors lately. Nobody even visited his strawberry garden that day except Uncle Sabe and Hifumin. Not long after that, Hacho also came to that place. He was being nice to Ryoji. He said that he wanted to buy marijuana from him. Ryoji said that he didn't know anything about marijuana. Hacho then showed him a sum of money in his wallet. He knew that Ryoji was going to be tempted by the amount of the money that he showed him. He said that he wanted to buy a lot of marijuana from him. Then, Ryoji asked him to follow him. But Hacho stopped him right away. He finally told him about the real reason why he came to that place. He said that he was going to kill Ryoji. He knew that Ryoji had killed many visitors who came to his strawberry garden. Ryoji was surprised when he heard that. He was getting more surprised when Hacho aimed his gun at him and called him by his real name. Hacho told him that he was paid by someone to kill him. One of the visitors whom Ryoji had killed was a gangster. Hacho said that he was hired by a member of Ryoji's victims' gang. Ryoji was getting afraid. He called his friend to help him. But unfortunately, his friend had been killed by Goro. Suddenly, Hifumin came to that place and sprayed Ryoji with liquid fertilizer. This morning, while Hifumin and Goro were searching for and collecting discarded items in the alley, they found a severely injured man lying unconscious there. They took that man into their makeshift home right away. Hacho was mad because Hifumin and Goro brought a stranger home. Goro said that he couldn't do anything because Hifumin insisted on helping that man. As a former doctor, Sabe checked that man's condition immediately. A few days later, a young man was cleaning the floor. He was called Taiki. His boss seemed unsatisfied with his work. He thought that the floor was still dirty. So, he punished Taiki by kicking him hard. Apparently, he was a leader of a yakuza subgroup called Todakiri. After he kicked his subordinate, he greeted his guest in his room. Turned out, his guest was Uncle Sabe. Uncle Sabe came there to tell him that he had done his job. As usual, he brought a transparent jar that contained a tattooed skin of his target as the proof. The leader of Todakiri was happy when he saw that. He knew that it was the skin of his enemy. He had been wanting to kill that man for a long time. He couldn't believe that his enemy finally died. Taiki was trying to help to light his cigarette, but he was unable to do it. Because of that, his boss punched him on the face. The leader of Todakiri then asked Uncle Sabe how much he had to pay him. He was annoyed when Uncle Sabe said that he had to pay him 10 million yen. He thought that Uncle Sabe was messing with him. He was getting more annoyed when Uncle Sabe mocked his status and reputation. Uncle Sabe called him rude and savage. He wondered how a gangster who occupied many areas in Japan could be so poor. The members of Todakiri were angry when they heard that. They attacked and kidnapped Uncle Sabe immediately. Apparently, the leader of Todakiri had been targeted by Uncle Sable and his group. They came to that place to execute their plan. Hacho and Goro were waiting in their van that they parked nearby, meanwhile Hifumin was waiting in another car. At Todakiri's office, Uncle Sabe was brought to a torture chamber. The members of Todakiri tied him to a chair and began to torture him. The leader of Todakiri mocked him. He didn't remember that he had any problems with Uncle Sabe and his group. He threatened to kill Uncle Sabe and the rest of his group if they messed with Todakiri. The leader of Todakiri wanted to give Uncle Sabe a chance. He said that he would let Uncle Sabe alive if he was willing to work together with him. But Uncle Sabe refused his offer right away. The leader of Todakiri then told Taiki to torture and kill Uncle Sabe with a hammer. Taiki's body was trembling. He was scared. The leader of Todakiri said that he would kill him if he refused to kill Uncle Sabe. Taiki was getting more scared when he heard that. He didn't know what he was going to do. He didn't want to kill, but he was afraid of getting killed by Todakiri. In that chaotic situation, Hacho suddenly shot the window of Todakiri's office. A member of Todakiri reported that to their leader immediately. He said that they were under attack. All members of Todakiri in the torture chamber left that room right away. They wanted to chase Hacho and Goro. Hacho and Goro came out of their van and entered that building. As an MMA champion, Goro managed to defeat the members of Todakiri easily. He asked them where the leader was. In the torture chamber, Taiki was still scared because the leader of Todakiri still forced him to kill Uncle Sabe. The leader of Todakiri kicked him hard on the back. Taiki finally took the hammer and attacked the leader of Todakiri with it. Besides being sick and tired of being abused by his boss, it seemed like he held a grudge against him. Taiki had never wanted this kind of life. His brother was the one who took him to this world back then. Taiki accepted that job because he had no other options. His brother said that he despised their abusive and sadistic boss too, but Taiki had to stay because they needed to survive. Unfortunately, the leader of Todakiri was around when Taiki's brother said that. He was angry because of what his brother said about him. He attacked Taiki's brother with a hammer right away. After holding his grudge all this time, Taiki finally decided to attack the leader of Todakiri. But since he didn't know how to fight, the leader of Todakiri managed to fight him back and attack him with his hammer. But when he was about to kill Taiki, Hacho and Goro arrived in that room. They attacked him right away and took him to the container. Taiki passed out. When he woke up from his faint, he found himself in a strange place. He saw Uncle Sabe and his group there. He screamed when he saw the leader of Todakiri there too. He asked Uncle Sabe about what actually happened. Apparently, Taiki's brother was still alive. His brother told him about what happened. He said that he was the one who hired Uncle Sabe and his group to kill the leader of Todakiri. He asked Uncle Sabe to let Taiki go. He said that he didn't have money to pay Uncle Sabe and his group right now, but he promised that he would pay them soon. He promised that he and Taiki would work so hard so they could pay Uncle Sabe and his group. Uncle Sabe and his group appreciated Taiki and his brother's determination. He also admired their brotherhood. Taiki and his brother then thanked Tefuman because he had saved Taiki's brother. Uncle Sabe told them that he and his group were going to do their job. The leader of Todakiri finally woke up from his faint. He found himself was being tied in a container. Uncle Sabe told him that he was there because he had committed many heinous crimes. So, before the leader of Todakiri was sent to hell, he needed to be punished for everything he did first. Hacho put a mirror in front of the leader of Todakiri. He wanted him to see his own face when he suffered. After that, Uncle Sabe began to torture him by slitting and removing his skin. The leader of Todakiri screamed in pain when Uncle Sabe did that. After Uncle Sabe and his group finished doing their job, they returned to their tent. Hacho told Uncle Sabe that he doubted that Taiki and his brother would pay them. He suggested that they rob their target too if they had to deal with this kind of case again in the future. Then, Uncle Sabe watched Tefuman worked. Suddenly, he had a flashback about the time when he still worked as a forensic pathologist for the police. One day, after a murder took place, he was trying to collect blood specimen from the crime scene. When he arrived there, he found out that the murderer was still alive. The murderer got badly injured after he killed his own wife, but he could still be saved. Then, he heard a strange noise from the cupboard. When he opened that cupboard, he found a scared little boy there. That little boy was Tefuman. Uncle Sabe saved him and took him to live with him since then. He raised Tefuman like his own grandson. Tefuman was once a boy who could speak. But since he witnessed the traumatic incident where a man killed his mother, he was unable to speak. While Hacho and Goro were heading home after they finished doing their job, they got into an argument again. Hacho was mad because Goro drove very slowly. Goro suddenly stopped driving. Hacho was getting more mad at him because he stopped their van. He and Hacho finally got into a fight. A police officer saw them and knocked on the window of their van. He asked why they fought and parked their van in the middle of the street. Hacho told him that they were just arguing with each other. The police officer suddenly smelled something strange inside of their van. He became suspicious of them. He told them to get out of the van and open the van trunk. Goro finally got out of the van. Hacho also got out of the van and followed them. He had prepared his gun. The police officer checked the van trunk immediately after it was opened. Everything seemed normal. After that, he told them to continue their journey. He didn't realize that there was a jar that contained a human skin inside of that van. The next day, Hifuman and Hacho were playing shogi. Goro was watching them. Hacho asked them why Uncle Sabe had been going out without them lately. Goro told Hacho to focus on the game. He knew that Hacho was only trying to distract Hifuman's attention because he was going to lose soon. Hifuman finally managed to defeat Hacho. Meanwhile, Uncle Sabe enjoyed fishing in the harbor. He remembered the time where he met Hifuman for the first time again. He had no idea why he kept recalling that memory. Suddenly, an old man came to that place. He was Uncle Sabe's old friend. He was called Masuda. He used to be a gangster, but he had resigned from his work now. Uncle Sabe noticed that he walked with a limp. Masuda said that his leg got injured after he got shot on the leg. He found out that Uncle Sabe worked with a group of hitmen now. He said that he wanted to ask him for help. Not long after that, Hacho also came to that place. He was looking for Uncle Sabe. He saw Masuda talking to Uncle Sabe there. He cancelled his plan to meet Uncle Sabe and left that place soon. After that, Uncle Sabe returned to their home. When he arrived there, Hacho asked him about the person whom he talked to in the harbor. Uncle Sabe then told them about his conversation with Masuda. Apparently, Masuda asked Uncle Sabe to help him to rescue his elderly brother. His elderly brother was currently living at a rest home. That rest home seemed normal from the outside, but turned out, an illegal activity was always carried out in that place. Every day, the caregivers there injected some drugs that were mixed with amphetamine into the bodies of the residents there. Because of that, the residents of that nursing home became addicted to their drug. They always asked to increase the dose of the drug that was injected into their bodies. Because of that, some of them died of a drug overdose. But unfortunately, their deaths seemed normal, so nobody had suspected that nursing home. After those residents died, the caregivers there took their victims' money and properties. Masuda said that he found out about the crime in that place when he visited his elderly brother at that nursing home one day. That time, he saw a doctor who was taking care of his brother giving a high dose of the drug to his brother. He was angry when he saw that. The doctor called the security guard right away. The security guard finally kicked Masuda out of that place and warned him not to come back. Because of that, Masuda asked Uncle Sabe to help him to rescue his elderly brother from that place. He was afraid if something bad happened to his brother. He also wanted to take revenge on the people who ran that nursing home. But Uncle Sabe refused his request right away because he knew that Masuda couldn't pay him and his group. After Goro heard that story, he said that a friend of a family member was also his friend. Hacho and Hifuman agreed with him. So, even though Masuda couldn't pay them, they decided to help Masuda to get rid of those people. At another place, Masuda disguised himself as a courier to enter the nursing home where his elderly brother was residing in. He wanted to rescue his brother. When he arrived there, he saw his brother lying unconscious on his bed. Suddenly, the doctor who took care of his brother came to that room. Masuda attacked the doctor immediately and threatened to kill him with his knife. He asked him about the person who ran that nursing home. Apparently, that nursing home was run by a group of criminals. In their office, those criminals heard that there had been a problem in that nursing home. They left their office immediately and rushed to Masuda's place. The doctor who was taking care of Masuda's elderly brother got paralyzed after Masuda injected a lot of amphetamine into his body. Not long after that, those criminals arrived in that room. They took Masuda to an empty field right away. In that empty field, they took turn to beat up Masuda. They were going to bury him alive. They had prepared an excavator to dig a hole to bury him there. They told Masuda to be grateful because they had been taking care of his elderly brother. Then, they attacked him for once more and pushed him into the hole. Uncle Sabe and his group finally arrived at that nursing home. Uncle Sabe pretended to be a sick elderly person who wanted to register himself as a resident there. The security guard asked him to show him his document. Uncle Sabe gave his document to him, but it fell to the ground. When the security guard picked up that document, Goro suddenly kicked him in the face. That security guard passed out right away. Uncle Sabe, Goro, and Hifuman then entered the building of the nursing home. They divided tasks and went to different ways. Meanwhile, at another building, Hacho was watching the situation at the nursing home. Uncle Sabe and Hifuman found Masuda's elderly brother. He saw him having a seizure on his bed. But suddenly, some gangsters came to that room. They threatened and kidnapped Uncle Sabe and Hifuman right away. Goro found the doctor who got paralyzed after Masuda injected him with a lot of amphetamine. He punched that doctor in the face. He asked him about Masuda's elderly brother. He had no idea that Uncle Sabe and Hifumin had been kidnapped by the criminals who ran that place. Suddenly, Hacho contacted him through a handheld transceiver. He told him that Uncle Sabe and Hifumin had been caught by the gangsters. Those gangsters took them to the empty field where they took Masuda before. They also pushed Hifumin into the hole where they buried Masuda. Then, a gangster aimed his gun at Uncle Sabe. He asked why Uncle Sabe and his group came to their nursing home and caused troubles there. Uncle Sabe saw a leg in that hole. He realized that those gangsters had buried Masuda there. Those gangsters said that they would also bury Uncle Sabe and Hifumin in that hole. In that chaotic situation, suddenly a gunshot was heard. Turned out, Hacho and Goro had arrived at that place. Hacho was the one who fired the gun into the air. After that, he shot the gangster who operated the excavator right away. Goro beat up those gangsters one by one. Hacho helped him to attack those gangsters with his gun. Suddenly, one of those gangsters tried to shoot Goro, but Uncle Sabe attacked him right away. After that, he jumped into the hole and helped Masuda. Fortunately, Masuda could still be saved. He was still alive. Then, Uncle Sabe and his group threw those gangsters into the hole. They stacked them there based on their ranks in the gang. They were going to take revenge on them by burying them alive. Hacho was ready in the excavator. One of those gangsters threatened that their boss was going to kill Uncle Sabe and his group if they killed him. But Uncle Sabe didn't care about that. He wasn't afraid of anyone. He calmly smoked his cigar and gave instruction to Hacho on how to bury them. Hacho obeyed his order. A few days later, Masuda had recovered from his illness. He asked Uncle Sabe to go fishing with him. He thanked him for helping him and his elderly brother. He suspected that the cleaner might be behind all of this. The cleaner was a secret criminal organization in Japan. They were quite famous in the Japan underworld. It seemed like Uncle Sabe also knew that group. At another place, a boy called Ken was being bullied by his schoolmates. His schoolmates suddenly stopped bullied him and ran away from that place when they saw Hifumin there. Hifumin helped that boy right away. Ken thanked him for helping him. Hifumin tried to respond to him, but sadly he couldn't speak. Ken realized that Hifumin was mute. He felt sympathy for him. Hifumin also felt sympathy for that boy because he saw himself in him. They were both lonely and friendless. They didn't have friends whom they could talk to on a daily basis. Then, Hifumin wrote his name on the wall. He tried to tell Ken that it was his name. He encouraged him and befriended him. He showed his science experiments to him. Ken was really happy when he saw those experiments. He enjoyed spending time with Hifumin. After that, Hifumin returned home. He was excited to put his new science experiments into his bag. He planned to show them to Ken. Hacho and Uncle Sabe were happy when they saw Hifumin's happy face. They were glad that Hifumin finally found a new friend. Hifumin went to meet Ken under the bridge. They spent time together by drawing the wall with crayons and doing science experiments. Hifumin really enjoyed spending time with his new friend. His face looked happy and his smile seemed so bright. They had been playing together for a week now. After school, Ken would always go under that bridge and meet Hifumin there. Suddenly, Ken received a call from his father. His father told him to go home soon. Ken told Hifumin that he needed to return home. He promised that he would see and play with Hifumin again tomorrow. Before Ken and Hifumin parted ways, they shook hands. Hifumin noticed that there were many bruises on Ken's hand. He was afraid if something bad happened to Ken. So, he decided to follow Ken secretly to find out what actually happened. Apparently, Ken's family was very abusive. When Ken arrived at home, his father hit him right away. His father was angry because he arrived home late. Hifumin peeked at them through the window. He saw Ken was being abused by his father. It reminded him of the time when his mother was being abused by a man. After Ken's father was gone, Hifumin entered the house quickly. He wanted to see if Ken was all right. He was worried about him. Then, he looked around that place. Ken's house was really messy. There were a lot of trash there. Hifumin found a picture of Ken and a woman. Ken told him that it was his mother, but sadly his mother had passed away. Now he lived with his stepfather. But he was unhappy because his father always treated him poorly. Then, Ken told Hifumin to leave because he was afraid if his stepfather returned home soon. At home, Hifumin told Goro about Ken's story. He said that he wanted to rescue and protect Ken from his abusive stepfather. He asked Goro to train him for fighting. He wanted to be physically stronger so he could fight Ken's stepfather. Goro agreed to help him. He liked to teach and train anyone who was determined to be physically stronger. The next day, when Ken arrived at home, he accidentally heard the conversation of his stepfather with a woman. His stepfather told that woman that he was the one who killed Ken's mother. He purposely killed Ken's mother in a car accident so he could claim her insurance. Turned out, before Ken's mother died, she had bought Ken insurance too. Ken's stepfather planned to do something to Ken so he could claim his insurance too. But he said that he needed to wait a little longer. Ken was angry when he heard that. He tried to attack his stepfather, but he failed. Since that day, Hifuman had never seen Ken again. Each time he went under the bridge to meet Ken, he couldn't find him there. So, he went to his school to look for him. He tried to ask Ken's schoolmates about him. But since he couldn't speak, Ken's schoolmates didn't understand him. They thought that he was just a random freak and left him. Apparently, Uncle Sabe had been following Hifuman secretly. He knew that Hifuman was looking for Ken. He helped Hifuman to ask Ken's schoolmates about Ken. After that, Uncle Sabe told Goro about Ken. He told him about Ken's abusive family and his friendship with Hifuman. At another place, Hifuman finally decided to go to Ken's house. Apparently, Ken had been abused and locked up in the bathroom by his stepfather for these past few days. His stepfather locked him up there so he couldn't run away. He also wanted him to starve to death. If Ken died of starvation, his death would look natural so it would be easy for Ken's stepfather to claim his insurance. Hifuman knocked on Ken's neighbor's door. He pretended to look for his friend there. After Ken's stepfather was gone, Hifuman went to Ken's house immediately. He found Ken in a poor condition. He took him out of the bathroom immediately. But unfortunately, while Ken was trying to save Ken, Ken's stepfather returned home. He was mad when he saw Hifuman there. He beat him up right away. Hifuman tried to fight him back, but he wasn't physically strong enough. He was finally defeated by Ken's stepfather. Suddenly, Ken's stepfather had an idea. He planned to kill Ken and accuse Hifuman of murdering him. He knew that Hifuman couldn't speak, so it would be easy for him to frame Hifuman and get away with this murder. Then, Ken's stepfather took his baseball bat and tried to attack Hifuman with it. But suddenly, Goro came to that place and protected Hifuman. Goro punched Ken's stepfather hard in the face. Ken's stepfather collapsed right away. When Ken's stepfather woke up from his faint, he found his body buried in the sand at beach. He was shocked when he saw that. He also saw Uncle Sabe and his group there. Uncle Sabe told him that the water would be flowing in towards the beach soon. Ken's stepfather was angry when he heard that. He called Uncle Sabe crazy and vile. Hacho was annoyed by him. He tried to kill him with a shovel, but Uncle Sabe stopped him right away. Uncle Sabe said that they were going to punish Ken's stepfather in their own way. The water would be flowing in towards the beach soon. When that happened, Ken's stepfather wouldn't be able to breathe. He would die of suffocation. Then, after Ken's stepfather died, Uncle Sabe and his group were going to harvest his internal organs. That was how smoking punished a bad person like Ken's stepfather. A few days later, Uncle Sabe and his group checked Ken's condition. After his stepfather died, Ken was adopted by his mother's family. Uncle Sabe and his group found out that Ken was doing so much better after he lived with his mother's family. Meanwhile, Hifuman continued his training with Goro. He was still determined to be physically stronger. Hacho bought Hifuman a pair of new shoes. He said that those shoes would help Hifuman to move more easily and quickly when he was fighting. Hifuman was happy when he received those new shoes. He thanked Hacho for that present. A few days later, in the evening, Hacho was walking down the street alone. It was raining hard that evening. Suddenly, he had flashback about his past. He remembered the time when he was walking down the street. It was also raining hard that time. Hacho then returned home and had dinner together with the rest of his gang. After Uncle Sabe and his group finished having dinner, they had a meeting. They were discussing about the target whom they were going to kill next. Their next target was a man called Takeo Tazawa. He was a yakuza member. He had tiger and chrysanthemum tattoo on his body. Uncle Sabe told them that Tazawa had killed their friends and stolen 30 million yen from his gang, Sonoichi. After Tazawa committed those crimes, he disappeared without a trace. The members of Yakuza tried to look for him, but they couldn't find him anywhere. So, they asked Uncle Sabe and his group to kill him and take their money back from him. Uncle Sabe got information that Tazawa was hiding in a house at the suburban area. He suspected that he was sick because he hadn't left his house for these past few days. After that, Uncle Sabe and his group prepared themselves to go to Tazawa's hiding place. But Hacho said that he wanted to go there alone. He was going to take care of this problem alone. Turned out, earlier that day, Uncle Sabe came to a clinic to visit his old friend. His old friend was a doctor. He was also a famous tattooist in that area. Uncle Sabe visited him because he wanted to ask him about Tazawa. His friend said that he knew something about Tazawa, but he wouldn't give that information to Uncle Sabe for free. Because of that, Uncle Sabe paid him a sum of money to get information about Tazawa. Hacho finally went to Tazawa's house at the suburban area. He knocked on the door. He pretended to be a courier who was delivering a package there. Not long after that, a man opened the door. He was Tazawa himself. Hacho noticed that Tazawa's face looked so pale. It seemed like Uncle Sabe was right about his health condition. Tazawa also looked suspicious of Hacho. In fact, he always suspected everyone who came to his house. Hacho also noticed that there were a doll and 2 pairs of kids' shoes inside of Tazawa's house. He then asked Tazawa about the address of the package that he wanted to deliver. But before he got any answer from him, Tazawa already slammed the door in his face. After that, Hacho was watching that house. He suddenly saw a little girl came out of Tazawa's house. It seemed like she was going to go to some place. Hacho followed that girl right away. That girl went to the roadside to pick some clovers. Hacho approached her and asked what she was doing there. That girl said that she was looking for a specific clover. Hacho then helped her to find what she was looking for. She was really happy when Hacho finally found a 4-leaf clover. Apparently, that girl was Tazawa's daughter. She was called Hina. She was a really cheerful and friendly girl. She told Hacho that her father was sick. That was why she was looking for a 4-leaf clover there. She hoped that the clover would help his father to recover well from his illness. After that, Hacho returned home. He told his gang about what he saw that day. He asked them to give him more time to make sure that the man in that house was really Tazawa. He wanted to see if that man had the same tattoo as Tazawa. Uncle Sabe thought that Hacho was being a little slow this time. Usually, it wouldn't take long time for Hacho to find and kill his target. But this time, Hacho wasn't even sure that they had found their real target. Uncle Sabe knew that Tazawa had a 7-year-old daughter. He suspected that she was the reason why Hacho wasn't doing his job like he was before. He reminded Hacho again that they were professional hitmen. So, it was important for them to be professional. Goro also offered himself to take care of this problem, but Hacho stopped him right away. He still insisted on taking care of this problem alone. He said that he would handle this case well. Then, Hacho returned to Tazawa's house. While he was watching that house, he accidentally listened to the warm conversation between Tazawa and his daughter. It reminded him of his past. Hacho once had a little family. It consisted of his wife and his daughter. Back then, he and his family liked to take a stroll at the park together. While they were taking a stroll there, Hacho promised his daughter that he would spend more time with her in the future. His daughter was called Harumi. She was really happy when she heard her father's promise. Hacho's pregnant wife was also happy when she heard that. But one day, everything changed. Hacho was running in the rain after he heard that his family had been killed. He was shocked and sad when he saw his wife and daughter lying dead on the roadside. He couldn't stop crying and wailing. Until this day, he could still feel the pain from that day. It was the hardest day of his life. At home, Uncle Sabe, Hifuman, and Goro had a meeting. They were discussing about Hacho and his dark past. They were afraid if Hacho couldn't take care of this problem well because Tazawa's daughter might remind him of his late daughter. The next day, Hina was shopping at a mini-market. She carried 2 bags of groceries with her. While she was heading home, she suddenly met Hacho and his group. Hacho told her that he brought a doctor there to cure his father's illness. Hina was happy when she heard that. But soon she got sad again because she remembered that her father told her not to bring a stranger home. Uncle Sabe helped Hacho to convince Hina. He said that it was important for his father to get help from a doctor. After Hina heard that, she finally agreed to bring Hacho and his group home. She told her father that she brought a doctor for him. Tazawa was surprised when he saw Hacho and his group there. He observed the way they dressed. But he still thanked his daughter for bringing a doctor home. Then, he asked her to go and play outside. Tina did what her father asked her. But before she left them, she talked to Hacho and hoped that he could cure his father's illness. After she was gone, Hacho told Uncle Sabe to leave him alone too. He was going to take care of this problem by himself. Then, Hacho sat in front of Tadazawa. He asked him to return 30 million yen that he had stolen from Sonoichi. He promised that if Tadazawa did that, he wouldn't hurt his daughter. Tadazawa understood that Hacho was a hitman. He couldn't believe that his daughter befriended a gangster like him. He knew that someone would come to his house and ask him to return that money someday. Then, Tadazawa took his duffel bag. But instead of taking money, he took a gun from his bag and aimed it at Hacho. Hacho wasn't afraid of him. He still sat without moving a muscle. Tadazawa smiled when he saw that. He finally put down his gun and gave his duffel bag to Hacho. That duffel bag contained 30 million yen that he had stolen from Sonoichi. Tadazawa told Hacho that he was going to die soon because he suffered from a serious disease. He said that it was the reason why he stole that money from his gang. He planned to use that money to make a better life for his daughter. He wanted his daughter to have a bright future when he was gone. So, he begged Hacho not to take that money from him. Hacho understood his pain and suffering. But he told Tadazawa that it wasn't that money that his daughter needed. His daughter would never be happy if she lived with that stolen money. What she needed the most this time was to spend more time with her father before her father died. Tadazawa cried when he heard that. He realized that Hacho was right. He knew that Hacho was going to kill him, so he prepared himself. He didn't care if he died that day because he was going to die soon anyway. Hacho told him that he would help him to protect Hina and find a new family for her. Tadazawa thanked Hacho for helping him. After that, Hacho killed him right away. Tadazawa was shot to death. Hina heard a gunshot. She ran to her house immediately. When she arrived there, she saw her father lying on his bed. She was crying when she found out that her father had died. After that, Uncle Sabe and his group gave the tattooed skin of Tadazawa to Sonoichi. They also returned 30 million yen that Tadazawa had stolen to them. But unfortunately, the members of Sonoichi broke their contract. They refused to pay Uncle Sabe and his group with money. They were going to pay them with Tadazawa's daughter instead. They suggested them to sell Hina if they wanted to get some money. Uncle Sabe had dealt with many gangsters in his life before. So, he knew that this thing was going to happen. Many gangsters who hired smoking refused to keep their promise to pay them after they used their service. So, he let Hacho do his job. Hacho killed all members of Sonoichi with his gun right away. A few days later, at a prison, a dangerous convict was going to be moved to another prison because he was sick. He was going to be moved with a van. While he was heading to his new prison, he suddenly attacked all police officers who guarded him in the van. After he killed them, he ran away from that place immediately. The next day, Uncle Sabe was fishing in the harbor alone. Not long after that, Matsuda came to that place. Uncle Sabe asked him about his elderly brother. Matsuda said that his brother was doing fine. Then, he told him that the secret criminal organization The Cleaner had helped a dangerous convict to escape from the police last night. That dangerous convict was called Nadaguro. Uncle Sabe and Nadaguro knew each other. Uncle Sabe knew that Nadaguro would take revenge on him. So, after he heard that Nadaguro had escaped from the prison, he left that place immediately. Before he left, he said something to Matsuda. After that, Matsuda returned home. When he arrived there, he found a man in his elderly brother's room. That man was called Kenuma. He was Matsuda's former boss. Matsuda was shocked when he saw a knife had been stabbed in his brother's stomach. Apparently, Kenuma had killed his brother. At another place, a young woman was being followed by a man. When she was about to enter her apartment, that man suddenly attacked her. That man was Nadaguro, the dangerous convict who had escaped from the prison. He was a crazy psychopath who was obsessed with young women. Before he killed his victims, he would torture them first. Uncle Sabe had a flashback about his past. He remembered the time when he was still working as a forensic pathologist. Back then, Nadaguro asked him for help. He was badly wounded after he was shot by a police officer. Uncle Sabe was surprised when he found out that Nadaguro was not alone. There was also a high school girl whom Nadaguro captured and kept as a hostage. Uncle Sabe said that he would help Nadaguro if he released that girl. But Nadaguro killed that girl right away. He shot that poor girl to death. He said that he needed to kill her because she had seen his face. Uncle Sabe was angry when he heard that. He was getting more angry when he saw Nadaguro trying to rape that girl's dead body. So, he attacked Nadaguro right away. He stabbed him with a syringe that contained anesthetic for several times. He even tried to kill him with his gun. But suddenly, Uncle Sabe's friend came to that place and stopped him immediately. He suggested that they took Nadaguro to the police instead. Uncle Sabe finally calmed down and sent Nadaguro to the prison. Back to the present time, while Uncle Sabe was heading home, he was being followed by a gangster. Suddenly, he saw a man lying dead on the street. That man had a wound on his chest. It seemed like someone had just killed him with a knife or a gun. Turned out, Kenuma was the one who ordered his subordinate to follow Uncle Sabe. Kenuma was a vice president of a criminal organization called the Cleaner. He came to Matsuda's house because he wanted to use Matsuda. He knew that Matsuda and Uncle Sabe were friends. So, he wanted him to trick Uncle Sabe. He tortured Matsuda by injecting a high-dose drug into Matsuda's body so Matsuda would do what he wanted him to do. At another place, several men gathered in a large room of a building. They were the members of the Cleaner. Even though the Cleaner was a criminal organization, they also worked for the government. The president of the Cleaner was called Tsunaji. Kenuma came to that room to report to him. Apparently, Uncle Sabe was a former member of the Cleaner. He used to work as a forensic pathologist for them. The Cleaner was the one who helped Nadaguro to escape from the prison. They purposely did that because they wanted him to kill Uncle Sabe. They also planned to kill all members of Smoking. They wanted to kill Uncle Sabe because Uncle Sabe could be a potential threat to them. As a former member of the Cleaner, Uncle Sabe knew a lot of information about that group. Tsunaji told Kenuma to bring Uncle Sabe to him alive. Kenuma was a little displeased with that order. He thought that it was better if he killed Uncle Sabe right away. But he couldn't do anything to refuse his boss's order. At another place, a street prostitute was trying to find a client. Suddenly, Nadaguro approached her and asked her for a sex. But that woman refused him right away. Nadaguro was mad because that woman ignored him. So, he grabbed her hair and attacked her. That woman's pimps were angry when they saw that. They tried to attack Nadaguro, but Nadaguro managed to beat them up. After Nadaguro defeated them, he asked that prostitute to have sex with him on that street. But suddenly, Uncle Sabe came to that place and drugged Nadaguro. While Nadaguro were unconscious, Uncle Sabe took his body to a room at the rooftop. As soon as Nadaguro woke up from his faint, Uncle Sabe shot him with his gun for several times. Then, Uncle Sabe tied his legs with wire and hanged him upside down. He wanted Nadaguro to think about all crimes that he had committed in the past. He was feeling guilty because he sent him to the prison instead of killing him right away back then. Matsuda came to that rooftop. He saw Uncle Sabe and Nadaguro there. But he left that place right away. Uncle Sabe began to torture Nadaguro. He used his knife to make a cut on Nadaguro's body. After that, he tore off his skin forcefully. He looked so happy and satisfied with his job. At another place, Kenuma received a call from Matsuda. Matsuda told him about Uncle Sabe's location. Kenuma came to that place immediately. But when he arrived there, he couldn't find Uncle Sabe anywhere. Suddenly, Matsuda attacked him. He decided to betray Kenuma. He couldn't hurt Uncle Sabe because Uncle Sabe had helped him to save his elderly brother. Even though Kenuma always injected high-dose drug into his body to torture him, he decided not to follow his order to hurt Uncle Sabe. Apparently, Matsuda was the one who killed the gangster whom Uncle Sabe saw lying dead on the street a few days ago. He killed all of Kenuma's subordinates who were following Uncle Sabe. He said that he would never hurt his friend. He didn't care if he had to deal with the Cleaner. Suddenly, Kenuma attacked him back. He shot Matsuda on the leg and forced him to tell him about Uncle Sabe's location. Matsuda groaned. He said that he would tell Kenuma where Uncle Sabe was. But suddenly, he took a grenade from his pocket. Apparently, he had prepared himself to commit suicide there. Kenuma was shocked when he saw that. Matsuda grabbed his legs and that place finally exploded. At another place, Hifuman, Hacho, and Garo were waiting for Uncle Sabe to return home. They were worried about him. They were glad when Uncle Sabe finally arrived at home. The next day, Uncle Sabe was fishing in the harbor. Suddenly, a man came to that place and approached him. That man was called Tsuji Wakabayashi. He was a member of the Cleaner. He was ordered by the president of the Cleaner to take Uncle Sabe to their office. Uncle Sabe agreed to go to the cleaner's office with him. When he arrived there, Tsunaji greeted him. It had been a long time since they met each other. It had also been 10 years since Uncle Sabe decided to leave the cleaner. Tsunaji told Uncle Sabe that his friend, Matsuda, had died because he decided to protect him from Kanuma. Uncle Sabe was surprised when he heard that. Tsunaji knew that Uncle Sabe really cared about his friends. Because of that, he threatened Uncle Sabe. He said that if Uncle Sabe didn't want that thing happen to his friends again, then he had to come back to the cleaner. Uncle Sabe refused his offer right away. All of Tsunaji's subordinates in that room suddenly aimed their guns at him. Tsunaji told them to put down their weapons. He realized that Uncle Sabe hadn't changed at all. He thought that Uncle Sabe was still stubborn like he was before. Then, he decided to give Uncle Sabe a chance. He told Uncle Sabe to think about his offer carefully. After that, Uncle Sabe left the cleaner's office. He then went to Matsuda's house. He was saddened by the death of his friend. Meanwhile, Goro was ordering some boxes of bento at a bento store. It seemed that he took a liking to an employee there. That employee was called Minami. Goro blushed when he saw her sweet smile. Then, Minami gave his orders to him. She said that she had added extra piece of chicken for him. Goro liked her even more because of her kindness. At home, while they were having a lunch together, Hifuman and Hacho noticed that Goro's bento had more pieces of chicken than their bento. Hacho was jealous because of that. He grabbed Goro's extra piece of chicken right away. Goro was mad at him. Nobody could eat that extra piece of chicken except him because it was for Minami. At the bento store, Minami had just finished her work. While she was heading home, Goro followed her secretly. He wanted to know where she lived. But suddenly, Minami stopped and crouched down. She felt pain in the head. Goro approached and helped her immediately. Minami was surprised when she saw him there. She recognized him as the customer who always came to the bento store where she was working. After that, Minami and Goro had a conversation. Minami told Goro that she was working at that bento store to support herself. But she often felt exhausted and got sick because she worked too hard. But she didn't have other options but to work hard. After she felt better, she told Goro that she had to go home. Goro offered to walk her home because he was afraid if something bad happened to her. Minami refused his offer politely. At another place, Hacho was visiting someone. He wanted to give his weapon collection to that man. As the return, that man had to give him the important information that he needed. He was still trying to find out about people who had killed his wife and daughter. He couldn't live peacefully until he found what he was looking for. That man gave a document to Hacho. When Hacho checked that document, he found out that the cleaner was involved in this problem. The next day, Goro visited the bento store that he visited yesterday. He was disappointed when he didn't see Minami there. After he returned from that bento store, he accidentally saw Minami walking down the street. He followed her secretly. Turned out, Minami was heading to a cafe. She met a man there. She and that man then left the cafe and walked down the street together. Goro was disappointed when he saw that. But he kept following them secretly. He saw Minami and that man entering a hotel nearby. Inside of that hotel, Minami was surprised when that man forced her to go to a room with him. She screamed and tried to run away. She didn't come to that hotel to sleep with him. They came to that hotel because they were supposed to do another business. She felt like that man had tricked her. Suddenly, Goro came to that place. He beat up that man right away. But Minami stopped him immediately. Then, Minami told Goro that she was working at a recruitment agency. She worked there because she needed to pay off her ex-husband's debt. She was once married in the past. But her husband divorced her and then disappeared without a trace without even paying his debt first. Since the debt collectors couldn't find him, they forced Minami to pay off his debt. Because of that, Minami had to work so hard to pay off that debt. To make it worse, the debt had high interest rate. She had to add it to pay 50% of her debt per 10 days when she didn't pay off his debt. Because of that, she needed to pay a lot of money to them. The recruitment agency where she was working had offered her a side job to help her to pay off her ex-husband's debt. Minami was surprised when she found out that what they meant by side job was to sleep with some men. Goro was mad after he heard Minami's story. He asked for the address of that recruitment agency to Minami. Minami refused to tell him. She said that he didn't want Goro to get involved in this problem. Then, she left Goro in that place. After that, Goro told Uncle Sabe about Minami's story. He said that he wanted to take revenge on that recruitment agency. He wanted to kill everyone who was working there. Uncle Sabe told him that violence wasn't the only answer. If Goro did that, then it would only get Minami into more trouble. The next day, Goro visited the bento store that he visited yesterday. Minami was surprised when she saw him there. Goro asked Minami to talk to him for a second. Then, he gave an amount of money to Minami. He told her to pay off her ex-husband's debt with that money. But Minami refused that money right away. Goro insisted that Minami accepted that money. He said that he didn't want Minami to suffer anymore because of that debt. Minami was touched when she heard that. She couldn't do anything but to accept Goro's help. After that, Goro and Minami went to the recruitment agency where Minami was working. They came to that place to pay off Minami's debt. After they gave that money to them, they planned to leave that office. But suddenly, the manager of that agency said something to them. He said that that money was actually enough to pay off Minami's debt. But since Goro beat up his client yesterday, he would use that money to pay damages to his client. Because of that, Minami had to give him money again to pay off her debt. Minami cried when she heard that. She couldn't believe that she was dealing with a monster. The manager of that agency purposely did that because he wanted to keep using Minami. He even asked Minami to become a porn star. He knew that Minami would make big profit for his company because she had beautiful face and body. Suddenly, Goro grabbed that man's hand. He wanted to beat up that man so bad, but he remembered what Uncle Sabe said to him. Uncle Sabe told him that if he used violence, then he would only make Minami suffer more. So, instead of punching that man on the face, Goro knelt down before him. He begged him to let Minami go. The manager of the agency was pleased when he saw that. He realized that Goro couldn't do anything to stop him. So, he told his subordinates to beat him up. Meanwhile, he was going to rape Minami. He told one of his subordinates to record him and Minami when they were having sex. He told Minami that it would teach her a lesson. Even though Uncle Sabe told Goro not to use violence to solve this problem, turned out he had planned something to help Goro to take revenge on that recruitment agency. Hifumin and Hacho had also prepared themselves. While Goro and Minami were being harassed, Hacho and Hifumin suddenly broke into that place. They fogged the place with fogging machines to attack the manager of the agency and his subordinates. But since Goro and Minami were also in that room, they also passed out with the rest of the people there. After the smoke in that room disappeared, Uncle Sabe came to that room. He gave remedy to Goro and woke him up. As soon as Goro woke up, Uncle Sabe told him to bring Minami home. Goro asked why Uncle Sabe helped him. Uncle Sabe said that it was because they were family and family were supposed to help and support each other. After a while, the manager of the recruitment agency woke up from his faint. He was shocked when he found himself tied to a table inside of a container. He saw Uncle Sabe and Hacho there. Uncle Sabe needed to punish him because he had exploited many women who owed money to his fake company. He also took a lot of money from them because he charged them high interest rates for their debts. Then, Uncle Sabe began to torture that man by slitting and removing his skin. He didn't anesthetize him because he wanted him to feel great pain. He thought that it was the best way to punish a horrible man like him. At another place, Minami finally woke up from her faint. Goro told her that she didn't have to worry anymore because her debt had been paid off. He said that from now on, she could live a normal life again. He told her to call him if she needed any help. Minami nodded and thanked him. The next day, Uncle Sabe came to the cleaner's office to tell Tsunaji about his decision. He told Tsunaji that he decided not to come back to the cleaner. When he was about to leave that room, he saw Kanuma there. Apparently, Kanuma was still alive. He managed to survive the explosion that was caused by Matsuda a few days ago. At home, Goro had another training with Hifumin. This time, he trained Hifumin to fight with a punching bag. Hifumin was excited when he used that punching bag. After that, the members of Smoking had a meeting. Uncle Sabe told them that they had a new mission. He explained that new mission to them. He said that earlier that day, when he was fishing in the harbor, a man came to that place and approached him. That man was called Yuya Masaki. Yuya wanted to hire Smoking to kill his own boss. His boss was called Haido Shiwasu. Uncle Sabe knew her. Haido was quite popular among yakuza because she often had property disputes with them. Besides that, Haido was also a former client of Smoking. Yuya wanted to kill Haido because he was sick and tired of her. He told Uncle Sabe that Haido had been exploiting and enslaving the employees at her company. But her employees couldn't leave that company because they were bound with the employment contract. None of them had the courage to fight her back because she was always protected by her personal bodyguards. Yuya begged Uncle Sabe to help him. He promised that he and his co-workers would find the money to pay smoking. Uncle Sabe still had no idea about what he was going to do. He didn't really believe in Yuya's story. So, he asked Hacho and Goro to investigate this problem first. Hacho asked Goro to go to that place right away, but Goro said that he wanted to have a lunch first. He was going to buy bento at the bento store where Minami was working. Then, Goro was heading to the bento store. Meanwhile, Hacho was heading to Hido Corporation. He would investigate this problem by himself. When Goro arrived at the bento store, he was disappointed because he didn't see Minami there. But when he tried to return home, Minami suddenly called him. Goro was happy to see her. Minami apologized to him because she was taking a break. She said that she was going to have a lunch. She asked Goro to have a lunch with her. Goro accepted her offer happily. Then, Goro and Minami had a lunch together in the staff break room. Minami said that she was happy because Goro wanted to have a lunch with her. Goro blushed when he heard that. He became even more nervous when Minami asked how he was doing. Goro finally decided to confess his feelings to her. Minami didn't say anything to him. Goro felt embarrassed because of that. He thought that he had been rejected by her. So, he decided to excuse himself and return home. But Minami stopped him right away. She asked him to stay and finish their lunch together. It seemed like she began to have feelings for him. At Hido Corporation, Hacho disguised himself as a courier. He pretended to deliver water gallon to that place. Yuya was surprised when he saw him there. He knew that Hacho was a member of smoking. So, he approached him quickly. He told him that his boss was going to be there soon. Then, Hacho went to Hido's room and put the water gallon there. Suddenly, Hido came to that room. She was mad when she saw Hacho there. Nobody was allowed to be in that room except the employee at that company. Hacho lied that he was delivering a special water gallon to her. He said that Yuya wanted to give that special water gallon to her as a gift. Hido was happy when she heard that. She approached Hacho and was being really nice to him. Hacho was uncomfortable with her. He excused himself from that place immediately. Apparently, Hido had a weird obsession. She was obsessed with young handsome men. That was why she only hired male employees at her company. Then, she would select an employee to become her personal slave. But she told them that she only selected that man for a special interview. Even though those employees hated her game, nobody had the courage to refuse her request because they were afraid of being beaten up by her personal bodyguards. That day, Hido gathered several employees in her room. She was going to choose her new personal slave. After a while, she finally decided to choose an employee to become her personal slave. Other employees felt relieved because it was not them whom that crazy woman chose. Turned out, the water dispenser that Hacho put in that room earlier had a hidden camera in it. The members of Smoking managed to spy on Hido through that hidden camera. After they found out about what really happened, Hacho asked Uncle Sabe about what they were going to do. Since Goro and Minami had a lunch together for the first time, they often had a lunch together in the same staff break room. Because of that, they were getting closer to each other. Minami said that she was happy when Goro was around. Goro always made her smile and feel comfortable. Minami could laugh and become herself when she was around him. Then, Minami told Goro that she wanted to open a restaurant with him someday. She also confessed her feelings to him. Goro was happy when he heard that. But suddenly, Minami received a call from her parents. Meanwhile, Hacho was being mad because he had to sort the discards by himself. He was mad at Goro because Goro was supposed to help him to do that task. But instead of helping him, he had a lunch with Minami. Suddenly, Hifuin showed a video from the hidden camera in Hido's room to Uncle Sabe. After Uncle Sabe watched that video, he finally made up his mind. He came to see Yuya and told him that he decided to accept his request. Yuya was happy when he heard that. Then, he showed Uncle Sabe a tattoo on his chest. He told him that Hido made that tattoo so he could never escape from her. He said that Hido also did the same thing to her other employees at that company. After that, Hacho came to Hido Corporation. He went to Hido's room with Yuya. Hido's personal bodyguards aimed their guns at them right away when they saw them there. Yuya thought that they aimed their guns at Hacho, but turned out, it was him whom they targeted. Yuya was shocked when he found out that Smoking had betrayed him. Uncle Sabe and his group decided to trick him and tell Haito about his evil plan to kill him. Apparently, the video that Hifuman showed to Uncle Sabe earlier was a video of Yuya when he was killing a man in Haito's room. Haito cornered Yuya because of that. She couldn't believe that her employee had a nerve to kill someone in her room. Yuya defended himself by saying that he had been entrapped by Haito. Uncle Sabe said that Yuya had broken their agreement because he had lied about this problem. He said that the real villain in this problem was not Haito, but Yuya. Then, Hifuman sprayed a bottle of drug to Yuya to make him pass out. When Yuya woke up from his faint, he found himself lying in a container. He saw Haito and the members of smoking there. Haito was holding a transparent jar that contained Yuya's tattooed skin. Yuya was shocked when he saw that. He realized that the tattooed skin on his chest had been peeled off. He screamed in pain and cursed at Haito. Then, Hacho handed a beautiful necklace to Uncle Sabe. Uncle Sabe put that necklace around Haito's neck. He said that the necklace was a gift from smoking to Haito for their partnership. Haito was happy when she heard that. But suddenly, Uncle Sabe said that he was only kidding. Turned out, the members of smoking found out that Haito was the one who forced Yuya to kill a man in her room. Haito forced Yuya to kill that man so she could blame him for murdering him. Usually, smoking didn't hurt women and children. But in this case, they would make an exception for an evil woman like Haito. Apparently, the necklace that they gave to Haito was a special necklace that was designed to kill someone. Haito was struggling to breathe because that necklace choked her. Suddenly Hifuman pressed a button and that necklace exploded. Haito died instantly from that explosion. After that, Uncle Sabe told Yuya that he was already free now. He said that Yuya could live a normal life again. Hacho told Yuya to forget everything that he had seen today. At home, Goro was daydreaming. Hacho approached him and gave him a necklace. He told Goro to give that necklace to his girlfriend. Goro was happy when he heard that. He thought that it was a brilliant idea. He left that shelter immediately to go to the bento store where Minami was working. Goro finally arrived at the bento store. But he was surprised when he saw a group of men closing that bento store. He saw Minami's apron lying on the street. He also noticed that there was blood coming out of that store. Goro thought that something bad had happened to Minami. So, he went berserk and beat up those men immediately. Suddenly, a car arrived at that place. Kinuma got out of the car. He greeted and called Goro by another name. Goro asked him where Minami was. Kinuma opened the car door. He told Goro to go with him if he wanted to see Minami again. Meanwhile, Uncle Sabe, Hifuman, and Hacho were waiting for their lunch. Hacho was mad at Goro because Goro hadn't returned from the bento store yet. He was really hungry. At another place, Tsunaji had a conversation with a man. They were talking about the cleaner's business. The main business of the cleaner was Underground Fight Club. Even though this business was illegal in Japan, the cleaner didn't have to worry that the government would interfere in their business because they were protected by that man. That man was called Masayuki Sakakibara. He was a government officer. The cleaner managed to make a lot of money from their Underground Fight Club business. In that fight club, two fighters would fight each other until one of them died. While they were fighting, they would be watched by many people who bet their money on one of them. Tsunaji and Masayuki were happy because their business was growing. They predicted that they would make more money from that business in the future. At another place, Kinuma's car arrived at a building. Goro got out of that car and entered that building. He asked a man about Minami. Then, he saw a CCTV recording of Minami on TV screen. In that recording, it showed that Minami was being held captive in a room. Suddenly, Kinuma came to that room and turned on the lights. Goro saw the battle arena in another room. Back then, Goro was the defending champion in that underground fight club. He used to be called the 56. Kinuma said that if Goro wanted to see Minami again, then he had to come back to that fight club as a fighter. He promised that he would release Minami if Goro was willing to do that. Then, Kinuma gave a tiny bag of cocaine to Goro. Goro finally agreed to come back to that fight club. He didn't have other options but to do what Kinuma wanted him to do to save Minami. At home, Uncle Sabe, Hifuman, and Hacho were talking about Goro and his past. Uncle Sabe told them that Goro used to be the greatest fighter in the Cleaners Underground Fight Club. Goro always managed to defeat all of his opponents easily. But one day, he began to become an addict. The cleaner purposely made him addicted to drugs so they could always control and use him. That time, while Uncle Sabe was walking down the alley, he saw Goro attacking a man and stealing a bag of cocaine from that man. It was the first time for Uncle Sabe to meet Goro. Uncle Sabe knew that Goro was a great fighter. He didn't want him to waste his potential. So, he took Goro to his place. He helped him to recover from his addiction. After Uncle Sabe treated Goro for months, Goro finally recovered from his addiction. Goro told Uncle Sabe that he didn't have a home to return to. He didn't have anyone in his life. He confessed that he had killed many people before. So, he wasn't sure if he could live a normal life again after this. Uncle Sabe offered him to live with him and his group if he wanted to. He told him to think of them as his new family. Goro finally accepted his offer. He officially became a member of smoking since then. Back to present time, Uncle Sabe finally finished telling Goro's story. It was almost evening that time, but Goro still hadn't returned yet. The members of smoking began to worry. They were afraid if something bad had happened to Goro. So, they decided to go to different ways to look for him. Kinuma wanted Goro to come back to the Cleaners Underground Fight Club. He knew that Goro would make a lot of money for his organization if he became a fighter in that place. He planned to make Goro addicted to drug again so he could control and use him like how he controlled him before. He thought that it would be easy for him to do that because he had taken Minami as hostage. He planned to use Minami to make Goro do what he wanted him to do. After he managed to control Goro, he would control and destroy smoking too. The first battle between Goro and his first opponent finally began. That battle was being live recorded and broadcasted by the Cleaner's TV channel so the loyal customers of the Cleaner could watch it on TV. The Cleaner was happy when they saw Goro there. They could make more money because their greatest fighter had returned. After a while, Goro finally managed to defeat his opponent. Not long after that, Goro's second opponent entered the battle arena. He was called the Nine. Before the battle began, every fighter would be injected with drugs so they would be addicted to drug. Then, the second battle between Goro and his second opponent began. Unlike the first battle, Goro was struggling to fight his opponent. He was beaten up relentlessly by his second opponent. But since he was the legendary 56, the greatest fighter of the Cleaners Underground Fight Club, he finally managed to fight his opponent back and defeat him. At another room, Kinuma was watching that battle with Minami. Suddenly, Kinuma's subordinate came to that room. He told Kinuma that Tsunaji wanted to talk to him. Kinuma left that room immediately and went to meet Tsunaji. He saw his boss having conversation with Masayuki there. Masayuki told them that he wanted to hire the Cleaner to kill a journalist. He said that that journalist was trying to stop an assemblyman who was standing as candidate to be prime minister. He didn't want the media to find out about this problem. Tsunaji said that he would do what Masayuki asked him. After Masayuki left that place, Kinuma suggested Tsunaji to kill Masayuki and take over his power instead. Kinuma didn't like that man. He had been sick and tired of him. Tsunaji disagreed with Kinuma's suggestion. He believed that they need to wait and do what Masayuki wanted them to do if they wanted to get what they wanted. Then, he told Kinuma to do his job. Goro's third opponent entered the battle arena. Suddenly, a man injected a drug into Goro's body. Goro was surprised when he saw that. After that, he beat up his opponent relentlessly. He didn't give a chance for his opponent to fight him back. Minami was worried when she saw that. At another place, Uncle Sabe, Hifuman, and Hacho were still trying to find Goro. They had been looking for him anywhere, but they couldn't find him. Because of that, Uncle Sabe finally decided to meet Tsunaji. He asked him where Goro was. He knew that Tsunaji had something to do with Goro's disappearance. He begged him to return his friend to him. Tsunaji told Uncle Sabe that Kinuma was the person behind all of this. But Kinuma denied that he had kidnapped Goro. He said that Goro was the one who decided to come back to the Cleaner. The next day, while Hacho was walking down the street, a black car suddenly approached him. Kinuma stuck his head out of the car window and greeted him. He said that he knew where the person whom Hacho was looking for was. He asked Hacho to get inside of the car if he wanted to know about the answer. Inside of the car, Kinuma showed a recording of Uncle Sabe and Tsunaji to Hacho. He told Hacho that Uncle Sabe was a member of the Cleaner 10 years ago, but Uncle Sabe and the Cleaner still had good relationship until that day. He also told him that Uncle Sabe's real name was Shinji Mizunuma. He said that Uncle Sabe was the person who had killed Hacho's wife and daughter. Hacho was angry when he heard that. He took his gun and aimed it at Kinuma right away. He knew that Kinuma was lying to him. There was no way that Uncle Sabe would do such thing to him. Kinuma smiled when he heard that. He told Hacho to ask Uncle Sabe about it. Hacho still refused to believe him. He asked him why he told him about all of this. Kinuma said that he wanted to take revenge on Uncle Sabe because Uncle Sabe had taken his eyeball away. It was obvious that he did this because he wanted to pit the members of Smoking against one another. Then, he asked Hacho to work together with him to destroy Uncle Sabe. Suddenly, Hacho remembered about his past. Back then, he was working as a prosecutor and a police officer. One evening, after he returned from work, he visited his wife and daughter at the hospital. His wife was being hospitalized there. The next day, Hacho and his team were still busy investigating a drug case that might involve a government officer. After he returned from work, he came to the hospital to bring his wife and daughter home. But when he arrived there, he saw his wife's room was already empty. He asked the nurse where his wife and daughter were. That nurse told him that they had been taken by a man who claimed to be his friend. She gave a message from that man to him. Hacho was afraid if something bad happened to his wife and daughter. He left that place immediately and rushed home. But while he was heading home, what he was afraid of had happened. He saw his wife and daughter already lying dead on the street. He cried immediately when he saw that. But suddenly, a man came to that place and stabbed him with a knife. After that, that man ran away from that place. Hacho chased that man right away. When Hacho found him, he asked him why he killed his wife and daughter. That man acted very strangely. Then, he tried to attack Hacho, but Hacho managed to shoot him first. That man died instantly. Not long after that, Hacho also passed out because of his severe wound. Suddenly, Uncle Sabe and Hifumen came to that place. They took him to their container. Uncle Sabe helped him by treating his wound there. When Hacho woke up from his faint, he asked Uncle Sabe where his daughter and wife were. Uncle Sabe told him that the police had taken their dead bodies. The police decided to list this case as a robbery case and not a murder case. Uncle Sabe also said that the person whom Hacho had killed was only a bait, not the real murderer. He knew that Hacho was investigating a big case. Hacho wanted to leave that place, but Uncle Sabe stopped him right away. Hacho was angry and sad. He said that he would kill everyone who involved in this problem. Uncle Sabe tried to calm him down. He said that Hacho needed to recover from his wound first before he took any action. After that, Hacho needed to investigate this case carefully. Uncle Sabe said that he would help Hacho to take revenge on people who had killed his wife and daughter. Since then, Hacho officially became a member of Smoking. He had been always having faith in Uncle Sabe. He doubted that what Kinuma had said to him was true. It was hard for him to believe that Uncle Sabe was the person who killed his wife and daughter. Meanwhile, Goro was still fighting against his opponent in the battle arena. He violently fought and killed all of his opponents during that battle. Minami cried when she watched that. Kinuma came to that room and mocked her. He asked her how did she feel when she saw a man whom she loved sacrificing his life for her like that. Minami begged him to stop all of this. Kinuma finally untied the rope that tied her. He pretended to help her to stand up. But suddenly, he grabbed and stroked her breasts. He wanted to rape her. Minami was surprised when Kinuma did that. She screamed and told him to stop. Goro saw what Kinuma was doing to Minami on TV screen. He was very angry when he saw that. He screamed and went berserk. Hacho finally returned to the shelter. He wanted to talk to Uncle Sabe. Uncle Sabe thought that he wanted to talk about Goro. He told him that he had found out where Goro was. Hacho asked him how he found out about that. Uncle Sabe didn't answer him. Suddenly, Hacho took his gun and aimed it at Uncle Sabe. He demanded him to answer his questions. He asked him what the cleaner was and who Uncle Sabe was. He also asked if Uncle Sabe was the person who killed his wife and daughter. Uncle Sabe promised that he would tell him everything after they brought Goro home. Suddenly, Hifumen went to that room to check on them. Hacho finally put his gun down and agreed to help Goro first. After that, Hifumen, Uncle Sabe, and Hacho went to the building of the battle arena. As soon as they arrived there, Hacho beat up all security guards in that place. Then, they entered the building to look for Goro. They finally found Goro in the battle arena. He was sitting alone there. Hacho didn't see anyone else there. So, he and Hifumen went to that place and tried to save Goro. But suddenly, Kinuma appeared on TV screen. He told Goro to fight and kill Hifumen and Hacho. He said that he would release Minami if Goro did what he told him. Hacho finally understood about what happened. He knew that Goro was under the influence of drugs, and he only came back to that fight club to rescue his girlfriend. Then, Hacho told Hifuman to leave that place. He was going to fight Goro alone. The battle between Hacho and Goro finally began. Goro punched and attacked Hacho relentlessly. It seemed like he didn't realize that he was fighting his friend. Because of that, Hacho needed to fight him back. He realized that Goro was not only under the influence of drugs, but also was under Kanuma's control. Hifuman cried when he saw Goro and Hacho fighting against each other. He tried to scream, but his voice didn't come out. At another place, Uncle Sabe threatened a security guard with a knife. He told him to bring him to Kanuma. Meanwhile, Hacho was finally defeated by Goro. But Goro kept punching him relentlessly. He was still under the influence of drugs. Hifuman was frightened when he saw that. It reminded him of his traumatic past when his mother was being beaten up by a man. Then, when Goro was about to kill Hacho, Hifuman screamed and attacked him right away. Hifuman's voice finally came out of his mouth. Then, Goro suddenly came to his sense. He managed to recognize Hifuman. Hacho laughed when he saw that. He gave a thumb up to Hifuman. Kanuma was disappointed because his plan had failed. He thought that he couldn't use Minami anymore. So, he covered Minami with his t-shirt and killed her with his gun right away. Hifuman, Goro, and Hacho were shocked when they saw Kanuma killing Minami on TV screen. Hifuman noticed Kanuma's tattoo on his back. That tattoo seemed familiar to him. Ma. Uncle Sabe finally came to the room where Minami was being locked up. But unfortunately, he was too late. Minami had died and Kanuma had already escaped from that place. Turned out, that room was not far from the battle arena. Not long after that, Goro also came to that room. He cried when he saw Minami's dead body. He was about to start a new happy life with Minami, but now he had to see his girlfriend lying dead there. He let out a howl of anguish. He was really sad, hurt, and angry. Uncle Sabe, Hifuman, and Hacho were also sad when they saw him. At the cleaner's office, Tsunaji called Kanuma. He told him to come to the office and stop whatever he was doing. Kanuma was angry when he heard that. He didn't understand why his boss told him to stop what he was doing. It was his only chance to take revenge on Uncle Sabe. After that, Uncle Sabe, Hifuman, and Hacho took Goro to the container. They were going to treat him there. Goro was badly injured after he fought against many people in the battle arena. He was both mentally and physically injured after that tragedy. Then, Uncle Sabe apologized to them because he hadn't told them about his past. He finally told them that he used to be a medical doctor who was working for the army in Middle East. It was a hard time for him. Even though he managed to survive that hard time and return to Japan, he couldn't stop thinking about that time. He suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder because he had to witness violence and war every day during his time there. Because of that, he finally decided to join Yakuza. He met Tsunaji for the first time when he was working for Yakuza. Tsunaji offered him to work for the cleaner. Uncle Sabe accepted his offer because he believed that Tsunaji and the cleaner had good intention. But after Tsunaji worked together with an organization called Bikoku, Uncle Sabe decided to leave the cleaner and end his friendship with Tsunaji. Bikoku was the main supporter of the government of Japan. This organization was led by Masayuki. Bikoku was known as the henchmen of the government of Japan. They were always loyal to them and willing to help them to get rid of the rebels and oppositions. They didn't care if they had to kill those rebels and oppositions, even the innocent civilians who were associated with them. The innocent civilians whom they had killed included Hifuman's mother and Hacho's family. Until this day, Bikoku was still trying to have more power in the government. They were going to stand as a candidate in the election. Uncle Sabe decided to leave the cleaner after he found out about their true face. After he left the cleaner, he created a group called Smoking with the purpose of atoning for his past mistakes and revealing the true face of Yakuza. Then, he gathered certain people to become the members of his group. He was looking for people who had been through the same pain and suffering as him. Like him, those people also had lost their loved ones, future, and will to live. They were also destroyed by the cleaner. After Uncle Sabe finished telling his story, he apologized to the members of Smoking again. He felt guilty because he couldn't help them. Then, he announced his decision to disband Smoking with a heavy heart. He asked them to survive and continue their life. After that, he left the container. Hifumin, Hacho, and Goro were saddened by Uncle Sabe's decision to disband their group. At the cleaner's office, Tsunaji remembered what Masayuki said to him. Masayuki once told him that if there was a member of the cleaner who refused to follow his order, then Tsunaji had to get rid of that member. Because of that, Tsunaji planned to fire Kanuma that day. He called Kanuma to his room. When Kanuma came to that place, he fired him immediately. He said that the reason why he fired him was because he always refused to obey him. He also thought that Kanuma only used him and his organization for his personal purpose. Then, Tsunaji asked his personal assistant, Wakabayashi, to kill Kanuma. Kanuma wasn't afraid when Wakabayashi aimed his gun at him. He still stood there without even moving a muscle. Suddenly, Kanuma and Wakabayashi laughed together. Apparently, they had been conspiring with each other to destroy Tsunaji. Then, Kanuma took his gun and shot Tsunaji in the head. Tsunaji died instantly because of that. After that, Kanuma and his subordinates went to Masayuki's place. Kanuma told Masayuki that he was the president of the cleaner now. So, he would carry out Tsunaji's duties from now on. Masayuki said that he didn't care about who the president of the cleaner was. He just wanted the cleaner to be always loyal to his organization, Bikoku. Kanuma told him not to worry about that because the cleaner would do that. After that, he left that place. Even though Kanuma didn't like Masayuki, he decided to keep working together with Bikoku because he wanted to destroy Masayuki and Bikoku. He told Wakabayashi that he was sick and tired of being used by Masayuki and his organization. Then, after he destroyed Masayuki, he planned to expand the cleaner internationally. In the middle of their conversation, Wakabayashi suddenly received a text from his subordinate. In that text, his subordinate told him that Uncle Sabe already began to make a move. Because of that, Wakabayashi suggested Kanuma to kill Uncle Sabe soon. He said that it was the best time for them to do that. At the shelter, Hifumin was busy packing up his things. Suddenly, he saw the silhouettes of 3 people outside of the tent. The next day, Uncle Sabe returned to the shelter. He was surprised when he saw Hifumin's belongings lying on the floor. There were also some bloodstains there. He was afraid if something bad had happened to Hifumin. Suddenly, Wakabayashi came to that place. He told Uncle Sabe that Kanuma had kidnapped Hifumin and killed Tsunaji. He pretended he wasn't involved in Kanuma's betrayal. He also exaggerated his story and pretended to be sad about all of this. He wanted Uncle Sabe to take revenge on Kanuma. Apparently, Wakabayashi had his own plan for both the cleaner and smoking. He wanted to destroy them both without dirtying his hands. He knew that Uncle Sabe would be really angry when he heard what he told him. And as he expected, Uncle Sabe was angry at Kanuma. Wakabayashi was glad when Uncle Sabe said that he was going to destroy the cleaner. Meanwhile, the members of the cleaner were kidnapping and taking Hifumin to their office. Hifumin saw Kanuma there. He remembered Kanuma's tattoo that he saw a few days ago. He believed that Kanuma was the one who killed his mother. Then, Kanuma punched and hit Hifumin in the face. He remembered that Hifumin couldn't talk. He told him that he was going to kill all members of smoking. At another place, Hacho was thinking about what he was going to do. After a while, he finally decided to survive and continue his life because he still needed to take revenge for the death of his wife and daughter. Meanwhile, Goro was still lying in the container. He still needed to recover from his injury. Uncle Sabe went to the cleaner's office to talk to Kanuma. When he arrived there, he saw Hifumin was wounded after being beaten up by Kanuma. Uncle Sabe asked Kanuma to let Hifumin go. He told him that Hifumin was a child of the family whom Kanuma killed in the past. That incident had traumatized Hifumin that he was unable to speak until this day. Kanuma laughed when he found out about that. He admitted that it killed many people whom the cleaner ordered him to kill in the past. But he said that he didn't remember who Hifumin's parents were. Hifumin was angry when he heard that. He tried to attack Kanuma, but Uncle Sabe stopped him right away. Kanuma's subordinates suddenly took their guns and aimed those guns at Uncle Sabe and Hifumin. Uncle Sabe tried to calm Hifumin down. He told Hifumin to hold back his anger. Then, Uncle Sabe told Kanuma to take him instead and let Hifumin go. He said that he had evidence that was very important to the cleaner. Tsunaji was the one who gave that evidence to him. It was evidence of the killing of the innocent civilians that was committed by the cleaner under the order of Bikoku in the past. With that evidence, Kanuma could prove that Bikoku had hired the cleaner to kill those innocent civilians. Uncle Sabe said that this evidence could destroy Masayuki if the public found out about it. Then, he begged Kanuma to let Hifumen go. As the return, he would give that evidence to him. Since Kanuma really wanted to destroy Masayuki, he finally agreed to release Hifumen. But before he let Hifumen go, he asked Uncle Sabe to show him that evidence first. After that, Uncle Sabe, Hifumen, and the members of the cleaner went to an abandoned hospital. It was the place where Uncle Sabe hid that evidence. Then, Uncle Sabe entered a secret room. He took several cassette tapes and compact discs from that room and gave them to Kanuma. Those cassette tapes and compact discs were the evidence of the crime that had been committed by Masayuki and his organization. Wakabayashi suddenly approached Kanuma. He took those tapes and compact discs and offered himself to check them by himself. Nobody had idea about what he was actually going to do with that evidence. Then, Kanuma told his subordinates to search that place and take everything from that room. Hifumen suddenly remembered the time when Uncle Sabe took him to that place. Back then, Uncle Sabe took a remote control from the secret room in that place and showed it to him. He told Hifumen to use that building if smoking faced an emergency situation. He said that he had installed nitroglycerin in that building. So, that building would explode if somebody pressed the button of that remote control. After Kanuma's subordinates finished searching that place, Kanuma finally kept his promise to let Hifumen go. Then, Uncle Sabe asked Hifumen to forget everything and run away from that place as far as he could. He also told Hifumen to forget all of his pain and suffering, start a new life, and forget his past. After that, he told Hifumen to leave that place immediately. Hifumen cried when he heard that. He felt really sad at the thought of leaving Uncle Sabe. For the first time in his life, he finally talked to Uncle Sabe. Uncle Sabe was surprised when he heard his voice. Hifumen told him that he didn't want to leave him. He said that he had thought of Uncle Sabe as his own father. So, he wanted to stay with him for the rest of his life. Suddenly, Kanuma interrupted them. He mocked them by saying that he was touched by their beautiful friendship. Then, he and his subordinate took their guns and aimed those guns at Uncle Sabe and Hifumen. Uncle Sabe and Hifumen couldn't do anything but to surrender and accept their fate. Uncle Sabe pressed the button of the remote control, but the bombs didn't explode. He felt confused and panicked. He kept pressing the button but nothing happened. He assumed that the bombs didn't explode because it hadn't been used for a long time. Kanuma noticed that Uncle Sabe was acting strangely. So, he approached Uncle Sabe and checked him right away. He was surprised when he found the remote control in Uncle Sabe's hand. He thought that Uncle Sabe was really wicked. Then, he tried to kill Uncle Sabe with his gun. But suddenly, somebody shot him in the shoulder. Turned out, Hacho was the one who shot him. He continued to shoot Kanuma and his subordinates. Goro had also arrived at that place. He helped Hacho to beat up the members of the cleaner there. After they managed to defeat all members of the cleaner, Hacho and Goro got into an argument. Goro told Hacho that he won the bet because Hifumen and Uncle Sabe were still alive. After that, they scolded Uncle Sabe together for trying to commit suicide with Hifumen only. They felt like Uncle Sabe didn't think of them as his family. Kanuma laughed when he heard that. Turned out, he wasn't killed in Hacho's mass shooting. Hifumen realized that it was the best time for him to take revenge on him. He couldn't believe that this day finally arrived. He had been waiting and preparing himself for this day. Then, Hifumen began to punch and beat up Kanuma. After he felt satisfied, he took a gun and tried to kill Kanuma with it. But unfortunately, Goro stopped him right away. Uncle Sabe told Hifumen not to dirty his hands. Then, Hacho slowly took the gun from Hifumen's hands. They were going to punish Kanuma in their own way. After that, the members of Smoking took Kanuma to the container. They couldn't believe that they could finally torture and kill the man who had ruined their life. Kanuma was the criminal mastermind who was responsible for all crimes that had been committed by the cleaner. There were so many sins that he had committed in his life. Because of that, Uncle Sabe would help him to atone for his sins. He said that he was going to purify his soul by slitting and removing his skin very slowly. Then, he began his cruel punishment. He slit Kanuma's body very carefully so he could cleanse his soul perfectly. Kanuma screamed in pain, especially when Uncle Sabe tore off his skin. After Uncle Sabe finished doing his punishment, Goro gave his final blow to Kanuma. A few weeks later, Hifumen was working out at the gym. He had been often visiting that place lately. He wanted to become physically stronger because he wanted to fight and defeat bad men easily. Meanwhile, Goro was still trying to move on. He couldn't stop thinking about his first love, Minami. He still kept the necklace that he wanted to give to Minami back then. He stared at that necklace. At another place, Hacho was watching Hina playing with her friend. He kept his promise to Tadazawa to watch and protect Hina. It seemed like Hina had returned to her old cheerful self again. Wakabayashi came to Masayuki's place to talk to him. Apparently, Masayuki was the criminal mastermind behind the death of Tsunaji and Kanuma. He didn't like Tsunaji and Kanuma's leadership in the cleaner. He thought that Tsunaji was already too old and Kanuma was too ambitious. Masayuki said that Wakabayashi had done a great job. So, he appointed him as the new president of the cleaner. Wakabayashi was very happy when he heard that. Then, Masayuki left Wakabayashi because he had another guest. He went to another room to greet his new guest. Turned out, that guest was Uncle Sabe. Uncle Sabe brought a jar that contained Kanuma's tattooed skin with him. He showed that jar to Masayuki as the proof that he had killed Kanuma, just like how Masayuki asked him before. Masayuki was satisfied with Uncle Sabe's work. He said that the tattooed skin inside of that jar was so perfect. It reminded him of a beautiful painting. Then, he offered Uncle Sabe to work for Bikoku. He wanted Smoking and Bikoku to work together. He planned to end his partnership with the cleaner and begin a new partnership with them because he thought that Smoking was more professional than the cleaner. He said that their partnership could benefit Smoking because Uncle Sabe could expand his group internationally. It seemed like Uncle Sabe began to like and trust Masayuki. He even told him about how Wakabayashi had betrayed and pitted Tsunaji and Kanuma against one another. Masayuki then told him that Wakabayashi was in another room. Uncle Sabe went to that room right away and killed Wakabayashi. After that, he returned to his first room. He told Masayuki that he didn't believe in him and his fake mission to cleanse the whole nation. He knew that Masayuki was the root of all evil. He said that he was going to remove his skin, which was going to remove his human mask. Then, only by that his true nature would be revealed to the world.